Hi everyone, Comic Reviewer here, this time reviewing on Superman issue 297. Now, keep in mind that this was set in the Bronze Age in the original concept of Earth 1. Now, given the fact that in life, Superman has always wondered what his life would be like had he been a normal person. And let's get on with the story. It starts off how Clark Kent's talking to himself and saying, "You don't wear that big red S anymore. Man, it's..." And so it's kind of revealed that Inagang has tied up a professor and using a special kind of telescope, sending out a kind of energy fire beam out into the city, where Clark is doing some investigating in the helicopter as Clark Kent and says, "For Superman," and makes a quick fly to try and stop it. And you've got Morgan Edge. Now, keep in mind that originally Morgan Edge took over Perry White's job and sort of became the more J. Jonah Jameson version. And he's like, "What the boys is that orange thing shooting out of the Olympus telescope? Whatever it is, don't blow your claim, Mr. Edge, because that red and blue thing, assuming is to stop it." So we see Superman using every tactic he can. Super breath, doesn't do a thing. Water, doesn't do a thing. And tries using sand, which eventually works and manages to stop the Intergang criminals. So Superman quickly flies back to the helicopter before anyone knows, and even quickly exposes the film to make sure that his secret identity is not exposed. I don't know why Clark didn't have an android duplicate to be on the plane or something. Would have made more sense. And so the photo guy's like, and my guess is that eerie orange flame light somehow botched the film. Why does this stuff always happen to Kent's work? That character has much bad luck like as Jonathan. And so we see Inagang pretty much finding out about this and pretty much talking that thanks to Superman, Metropolis will be ours. And so we see Clark deciding to live his life as a normal person for once and gets to experience things like seeing one of his neighbours getting a prick from one of the thorns. And what's interesting that Clark's neighbour is meant to be a kind of someone from another world and does some investigating. And so we see Clark having dinner with Lois, and you got Steve Lombard, who is basically meant to be kind of this sports guy, more of this ladies' man. And so Clark says to him, "Hey Steve, don't your mother ever tell you that in restaurants it's proper to behave?" And tips the table over him with everyone watching. And Lois looking in thing saying, "I can't believe you just did that." And so we see Clark walking off and seeing that a big flood's happen and feeling a bit responsible. So luckily the fire services and other people show up, so Clark's relieved that, he doesn't have to blame himself, doesn't have to put the weight on his shoulders, but knows that these people are Supermen of their own, and knows that they are basically doing the right thing. What's interesting is that in the Bottle City of Kandor, two Kryptonian scientists say that this wasn't supposed to happen. What originally was supposed to happen was Clark was supposed to stop it, and they're finding this a bit suspicious. And we see Clark pretty much inviting Lois for dinner, having a kiss and everything else. And we see Clark doing a kind of news report on a protest about the food risings, which I think I get it. Sometimes with food products, they're going to raise the prices depending on how much it's worth. And so we see an actor who is Superman trying to stop this, and we see them talking, saying, "So I'm glad I didn't have to use my powers to quit this crowd, Mr. Kent. So am I. He's a brave man to pull a stunt like this. And so we see In-Gang looking at the reports, and we see Morgan Edge pretty much talking with Clark, and we see Clark finally putting his foot down and having Steve Lombard come to Morgan Edge's office, where Steve goes to confront them, but Clark quickly knocks him out. So we see Clark getting a tip from In-Gang, from one of the informants, and even from a professor who gives him an invention to help him. So we see Clark pretty much using his skills and that to get in, and eventually uses the device to try and lift the In-Gang up, take them down, and pretty much take them all single-handedly. And we see Clark and Lois having dinner at his apartment, and we see Clark's neighbor back in the mysterious apartment next to Clark's, where the neighbors pretty much planted these sort of juries from his planet and plan to channel the power to destroy the entire planet. And this is the story. So what I think, it's actually an interesting concept, and I think this has been done before with Superman so many times. I mean, it's an interesting concept to see Clark coming out of his cape and trying to be this more kind of a person, and it's meant to show that Clark does want a normal life, but it's not going to be easy. So I think the issue deserves a good thumbs up. Still good, and still alright. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.